Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 285 of GI Joburg, Playmates Toys, and Cobra Coils. My name is Steve, and I am joined by Paul.
Toxic Crusaders, toxic. Hey, everybody.
And Rob.
Hey, it's a Rob in the house.
It's Radical Rob.
So we are a GI Joe podcast, but every now and then we'd like to talk about other toys that took our fancy on this long journey of collecting. And for a time, Playmates toys were ruling the toy aisles. So obviously they had some impact on us to a lesser or greater degree. And we're going to find out exactly who really took up the Playmates flag and who kind of saw those toys and kept walking on. But the cultural impact of these beautiful, whimsical, colorful toys cannot be denied. So we're going to get into it on episode 285. But we also are the first podcast back since a wonderful Special Forces Playmotion adventure from the Glen Peak family debuted on the channel. It was called The Coils of Cobra, Siege at the Cobra Castle. And it was delightful. It's an 8-minute adventure with a lot of action happening. The 4 boys actually, wow, Glenn did well to raise these young men and rein them in to playing with their GI Joes. They were responsible for the shooting, the editing, the scripting, the storyline, the actual manipulation of the figures. Sometimes you see them on camera. There was a delightful moment where they even referenced us at GI Joburg by doing the Cobra plane crashes and the person manipulating the plane says, "No parachute." But we'll get into it. Paul, Rob, it's been a while since we spoke last. A little bit of delay behind this podcast for various reasons. I'm putting up my hand, and you can't see it, but it's going up saying "Mea culpa." Sorry, everyone. That was my fault more than anything else. But how are we, Paul?
Good, man. Been a crazy 2 weeks or so. Got a cool new review art for the classified Crimson Guard, which is
Tell us about it.
cool. So I got my hands on a classified Stalker and a classified Crimson Guard, and I was just really excited at how good they were that I started shooting video of them immediately. Like, as I opened up the Stalker, I just took video footage of it, and then I did the classified. I'm like, okay, well, I've scratched the surface of it. I've got to go deeper now. And so you guys can hear all my thoughts it's on our YouTube channel. You can hear my thoughts about the Crimson Guard classified Crimson Guard figure, which, I mean, spoiler alert, I really dig it, but watch the video to know why I really dig it and what I think has been like a lot of the hits and the 1 or 2 misses that it has. So that's available now. You guys can watch that as we, after this podcast if you want to.
I'm impressed, Paul. That's very GI Joburg industrious of you. The first impulse you have when you see a cool toy is, let me get my camera. Me, I'm like, oh, geez, do I have to make content out of this? I want to just enjoy my toy. Yeah, it's funny, man. And you, Rob, how are you doing, man? Oh, sorry, Paul, you wanted to speak
No, I was just going to say, like, it's cool that you mentioned that. It's cool that you mentioned that because in a weird way, your most recent videos of, well, when I say recent, actually not that recent, you did a Wolverine. And then before then it was a Lando Calrissian, and I was really like kind of inspired by that. And then the nail in the coffin was your retro collection. Did they call them the retro collection modern era style Stalker review that you did? I like that. Well, and I was like, well, Steve is like doing, these are so off the cuff and so like they just look so doable that I'm gonna try that. And I did, and it was like well worth it. And also, just for the record, folks, I generally take photos of when I buy new toys because I'm trying to keep like some kind of journal to remember what they look like and to kind of remember the day that they arrived, which I'm finding as I get older. And I don't know about you, gents, but I find as I get older, I like to chronicle these things a little bit. Have them sort of somewhat journaled. It's just really irritating when I do footage. As I have in the past, and my SD card on my camera just decided to mess it up. So when I transfer, so that's been a bit of a ball ache. But I recently found some cool footage for my next classified review. So that should be going up next week sometime. Probably Tuesday for the Patreon supporters for the Bowforce. And and then maybe and then a small surprise review, which I'll release because Steve, you did this cool one on the reaction figure recently, and
my 5 POA. I had to give it a try. I bought a reaction Snake Eyes, but we can talk about that on the back end, the new shit.
Yeah,
Rob,
of course.
Give us your new news.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, the week overall was pretty uneventful, except for really big news related to our comic book shop. We're moving from our current location to basically a standalone house, and I'm very excited to kind of like see what that dynamic's going to be like going forward. So the end of April is going to be an exceptionally busy time for the comic shop as we're gearing up to like pack up the entire comic book shop, to move it somewhere else, as well as to attend Comic-Con Cape Town, which is like the biggest and first geek convention since COVID in Cape Town.
In Cape Town,
yeah.
We've
Cape
had two.
Town,
sorry.
Yes, Joburg has to have everything. You guys
sorry, man.
can't wait until things are really safe. You're like, heck it, we're just gonna do it.
Be done with the sickness.
Just gotta keep going. So shop wise, I'm very excited to see like what's gonna happen. I don't know what the dynamics are gonna be like in that space. Like now, it's gonna be a closed off thing. You have to buzz to get in. So I'm very interested. Like, will we have as much foot traffic as we have been having? Because obviously you always get the specialized people, who come, the subscribers, the guys who come and buy comic books and stuff regularly, but you won't get like the random people, or maybe you will. The location is fantastic. It's at an intersection, and apparently like tons of traffic go past it daily. And we can have a big sign saying comic book shop, come
comic books,
read, learn how to read. I don't know. With comics. So yeah, I'm very excited, and we'll have our own bathroom. I think that's a cool thing. We don't have to use the public toilets anymore. So yeah, very banal news, but it's still very exciting to me.
I don't think it's banal. I think it's a pretty cool thing. I mean, I saw it announced on Instagram, and I immediately got excited for you guys because I feel like you need to get out of the mall, out of that mall specifically. And I also find like the shop that I'm connected to, which is Anime Works, which is now known as the Nexus Hub. I mean, they host my stock for Gunplay SA. And they're a freestanding venue. They're not stuck in a mall or anything. And it's been so much better for them in a lot of ways. It's changed the way that their business works. And I think the same is going to happen to Reader's Den. It's going to turn you guys into a much cooler place. And then also, I mean, what's that other Cosmic Comics? They also did a similar thing. They've got a freestanding store now. They've always kind of had a freestanding store, and that's always helped them. And now they've got these little like satellite stores that they put into some of the malls. So I feel like they're going a little bit backwards, sort of. But anyway, to that, Rob, I wish you all the best, man. I think there's going to be some cool stuff from that.
I'm very excited. Absolutely. Stephen, you're doing well.
Just survived Elliot's 2nd birthday, and it was
happy birthday, boy.
Yeah, he's a little boy, guys. He's definitely into all the things his dad was at this stage. None of it age appropriate, but all of it like semi-cartoon inspired. Hell, a picture tells 1,000 words. He got a new tricycle. He got pretty much all the Paw Patrol like vehicles and playsets of a certain era, and he got a Hot Wheels like garage loop-de-loop track thing. Which
you're awesome, dude.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I have no problem with secondhand toys. I am a vintage toy buyer, so everything I buy has filtered through the hands of one or multiple people. So I have no problem getting my kid's stuff off Facebook Marketplace. And bless him, at all of about 2 years age, he doesn't really care much for packaging anyway. And let's face it, if you buy a massive set like a Hot Wheels garage set and have it still boxed up on the big day, You as a parent are going to be sitting there struggling with this thing for an hour, maybe 2, while the kid's on your back wanting to play with it, while you assemble
Exactly.
it, because these things are huge. It's a massive undertaking. I mean, oftentimes you see on the box printed like 1 hour setup or 90 minutes setup time. Like they give you a fair warning. So you actually want to probably take it out of its box and assemble it the night before anyway. So anyway,
Yeah.
got all this stuff for cheap prices. Elliot, if you're listening to this in the future, I don't love you any less. I just wanted to make sure you had the
Your
most
dad's
mega
smart.
blowouts of a Christmas or birthday morning. And yeah, guys, he was thrilled, overjoyed. If I had the right video clip on standby right now, I could show you exactly how he flips out when. I mean, this Hot Wheels garage is brilliantly manufactured and engineered. I was very disappointed with a Hot Wheels track system that I bought over Christmas at great cost from the store, because like the engineering of it just could not match what it set out to do on the box. It had like 3 loop-de-loops consecutively and one sort of rubber band launcher to get the cars to do it. There's no ways it could have completed that. So on the lower end of the budget, the engineering just doesn't work out. But on the bigger, like big ticket flagship items, like the big Christmas item for that year, like this garage, it works. It's so well tuned to Hot Wheels cars that in fact I used a competitor brand of car and it doesn't work. So it's like it's almost mathematical to get the cars to do these jumps and loops and shoot off and go along the track
Take
in the
that,
right way.
Tomica.
Exactly. Tamika cars are too heavy. They do not work.
They're metal,
So
metal. Yeah.
I was delighted. He's so amazed at this mechanism. And at all of 2 years old, he can kind of do it himself. Like it really does allow him to do self-play. He's parking the cars on the top level. He's taking them down the ramp. It's entirely, it's not battery operated. It's like kind of, you drive the cars onto a ramp, press a button, which is a kind of spring-loaded slash clockwork. So it kind of has cogs to kind of slowly raise it to the top. Then it tilts the cars down on the ramp. They do a first loop. They do a death-defying leap into this kind of bucket, go around, and then at the bottom, you have a crank handle which charges it for another loop. And if at random it triggers a second system, a shark's mouth pops up and swallows your cars. At total random.
That's so cool.
He freaks out. He's like, shark!
I'm loving this.
Very, very cool.
I love that Speed McQueen hauler. Sorry, man.
Oh, yeah. Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, Lightning McQueen. Sorry.
You are forgiven. Yeah. Anyways, my wife is fast asleep and my child is screaming for her. So I'm going to actually rescue him. Gents, won't you, in my absence, just talk about the Coils of Cobra? Did you watch it? What did you think?
Cool. Rob, do you want to start off?
Well, I'm going to say that it's cool because like it's been quite a while since we had an episode of the Coils of Cobra. And like the lead-in, it's like straight away, it's like where's Snake Eyes? So like you straight reminded, at least you kind of like set up to kind of go into it, and you're like, okay, cool, they're separated, and you kind of caught up. You may not know the entire story of what happened. You can go back and watch the first 3 parts, but at least you kind of caught up. And I thought that was like really, at least a nice little like point in their favor, that you kind of like just straight away like, these guys are over here, Snake Eyes are over there. And I really love that fight sequence in the hallway.
Yes, I was actually going to say
so much fun.
I was going to say the same thing. I really love the whole infiltration thing with Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
like I thought that was so cleverly shot. And this is something that I just want to like tell the like listeners, if you guys have been following this series, the first one is done when these young gentlemen are quite young. They're still quite small. And you're seeing the quality of this production grow with the creators of it. And like it's fascinating to see it. It's fascinating to watch it. And at the end of it, I kept thinking of these 4 little boys. It was 4, hey? Was it 4?
Yes.
Keep thinking there's 4. Yes, it's 4. These 4 little boys that were just like they were just super excited to meet Steve and just have a great big photo with us at Comic-Con.
I do remember
at Comic-Con, at
like,
JoeCon. Steven, and the one was crawling all over Steve, and it was amazing. and I'm just like, these little guys
got me broody. It was
I
only
bet,
a matter
dude.
of time before I had my little one crawling all over me.
Your paternal instincts sort of kicked in there. I think every woman there that saw you, like, I think all their pants got wet because they were like, "You're so paternal." Anyway,
Paul.
back to the episode. I really love this infiltration. I think it's so cool. It's something that I have been wanting to do, and the excuse I keep making for myself is that I don't have cool backdrops and scenery and stuff. And these dudes did it with like cardboard, and they made up this cool cardboard command console.
That
I don't know
base
if you
was
guys.
so cool.
Oh, it is so cool, and I'm just like, yep, this is great. This is kids reminding adults how to play with toys, and that was like a special thing for me. So that was a highlight for me on this episode, definitely.
Some great like motion out of Snake Eyes, like flying kicks and various attacks. At one point, he slashes up a computer console. I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I couldn't have done better, honestly.
Yeah,
I've been at this for a while now, and these boys are showing me a thing or two. It's wonderful to see. Well done, Peak Family.
Yeah, guys. I mean, and even the narrative is like good. It's like it follows, and there's some interesting camera angles, and yeah,
it gets outside of its own head so lovely, so well. It's just like a child would do. I tend to get a little bit bogged down in perhaps too much talky scene work, whereas these guys get right to it. Snake Eyes has given us the signal, pour it on, Joe's, and suddenly a massive attack ensues. You don't need the planning scene of everyone sitting in the board meeting, like coming up with the mission. Like, just go and do it. Play with your toys. Yeah, I loved it. Well done. Rob, what did you think?
I thought overall, it was really strong. Like I was saying to Paul, it's cool that they kind of like, it's been a while since we've seen part 3, but it kind of like opens with like, Flint, it's Flint and Lady J. Is it Lady J? Yeah, they kind of like, no, Flint and
Dial tone.
Dial tone, god damn it.
Lady J is manning her sniper rifle.
Yeah. Like,
Dial tone and Lady J.
Yeah, they got, both have green outfits.
Same thing in the dark, eh?
Very. I just like that they kind of like, hey, how are we gonna know that Snake Eyes is getting his mission done? And then you cut to Snake Eyes. Like I think it's cool that even without knowing what's come before, you still kind of have this mini little like intro into the story as it's happening. And I thought that was really cool. And it's just action from start to finish, and it's very visceral and varied. And I like how they don't. Some of the kids seem to like not. They seem to be precious with the vehicles, but then the other ones are like the HISS tanks and like.
This is one of those new HISS tanks. No, it's not. But
flips it.
And at one point, Beachhead and I think it's Dusty, they commandeer a HISS very violently, just flip open the canopy, throw the guy down. Awesome.
And some incredible prop work. And I'm actually thinking of the castle. Okay, so I mentioned the cool little like computer, which I love. That's like totally in my wheelhouse. But they've got these like statues with Cobra heads on them.
Yes,
and they're so rad. Yeah,
and it's like Major Blood's like attack, retreat.
It's so cool, and I'm just like, damn. And then like spray painted them and everything, like they're in these bottles. Oh, it's too cool, man. It's too cool. Like that's what I wanted to be like as a kid, is like do that kind of stuff.
So what more to say than though a little bit low effort in some respects. I certainly am not about to spray paint up a snake head. Like Dio building is my kryptonite. I like filming the toys, I like editing the sequences, but building a set, I'm like, nah. That's why I film out of doors, because I just let nature give me everything I need, and just let. let the toys shine.
By part 5 and 6 of this, I think the Peak family is going to have some fantastic artwork. Like this is the beginnings of it, you know.
You said it, Rob. It's a cross section through their lives. Like we might see them enter adulthood and still be continuing the saga of the Coils of Cobra. Wouldn't that be a trip?
Yeah.
It'd
That
be
would
like
be a trip.
Isn't there that film concept where a guy films himself every year? Is it called Boy? I don't know.
I think
I only know about this tangentially. Every year for 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how he made the movie. Like the kid grew up as the film was made. Fascinating.
And then also like I mean, and just to add to what Steven's saying, I wouldn't be surprised if I see one of these kids receiving awards for, you know, best screenplay or cinematography one day. You know, like
watch
you know,
this
at the
space.
Oscars.
In other words,
yeah, for sure. Like you know, we can.
This is where this stuff starts.
They started out on our channel.
Yeah, go short round, nice one, dude.
But I think
a nice
so
one
cool
Academy for a change.
Yeah. It's cool that they kind of kept that they still like GI Joe, and I think that's awesome. And they definitely watched the cartoons, you know, because I think it feels very cartoony, the action inspired.
Darren Cobb has the film in mind. It's called Boyhood.
Boyhood. We were close. We've got the hood.
Yep.
Yeah, forget the hood. All right, let's move the agenda on, gentlemen. We have a very clearly defined mission on this episode. We want to talk about Playmates. I guess for no other reason, for me at least.
Not those Playmates.
I have had a bit of a Playmates renaissance recently. If you haven't following the podcast, you know that Elliot is into the turtles. And at every opportunity, anytime we go into this vintage toy store, he heads straight to the back where there's a glass case of old Ninja Turtles toys in various states of disrepair. And he demands that we walk out with one. I'm conscientiously resisting because none of them have their belts. I've bought up the ones that have the rubber belts, and like the rest they just look unfinished. I can't bring myself to do it. So I'm like, no, Elliot, we've got it home. But lo and behold, if any more are stock, I'll snap them up. But that sent me down the Playmates rabbit hole, and Playmates were responsible for obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But they also did Toxic Crusaders. They did the massive Star Trek toy line for years.
Absolutely huge.
Which was hugely popular. Probably the best generations and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and movie toys you're likely to get up to a point. I mean, maybe other companies have followed on from now, but at the time, like this was your avenue to having a full bridge crew or all the characters from Deep Space Nine. So the impact of these toys cannot be overstated. That one.
Overstated, yes.
Check myself. I might wreck myself. So we have been remiss to not ever talk about these. I mean, we talked about Toy Biz, we talked about Batman toys on this podcast, but we never got into Playmates. And so, as our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles super fan, Paul, do you want to give us some first-hand accounts of like when you saw these toys in toy aisles? What was the impact?
dude, I totally want to. Okay, so this is thankfully a moment in my life that's etched in my memory, which is pretty cool. So we used to frequent this mall called Cresta Shopping Center. In fact, we still frequent that mall. But my mom would always, every weekend, like clockwork, I'd wake up in the morning on Saturday morning. I didn't have Mnet, which was a paid kind of TV service, which had lots of cool cartoons. So I would just wake up in the morning, and my mom would want to go and check out, go and do clothing shopping or whatever, to go and check out the stuff. And naturally, it being the late 80s, I think at that time it was 1990. And it was safe, you could basically tell your kid, okay, cool, here's some like money, go run to the arcade or whatever, and I'll meet you at this time. So I had my little like very big orange and blue scuba watch, and and cool. And my mom would go and look at Fashini and Edgar's and whatever the hell else. And I would go to like 3 places in particular, or specifically go to 3 places in Cresta. The first one was downstairs by the movies. They had an arcade there, and I used to go and play what's it? Cool game. After I keep wanting to call it Afterburner. Is it after? Yeah, it is Afterburner. I used to play Afterburner quite a lot.
Yeah, in the
and
the pod.
Yes. Well, it wasn't the full pod; it was the half pod, so it didn't do the swinging around thing. But it was cool because I used to play that because that was G-Log had the whole swinging around, and then Afterburner had the normal sitting in one. Anyway, that was great, and I used to play it for quite a while.
Sorry.
It was $2 No, it's all good. I'm just going to make sure that my memory's right here. And then after that, I'd go and play Galaxy Force, which was right behind it. It used to be cool because a lot of kids, because arcades back then, so kids used to watch me play. So that was always like fun for me because I used to get quite far. And then when I would run into the continue, some kid would jump in and be like, "Okay, cool," and continue from where I left off. Punk. And then I would go to
subsequently
CNA.
die a lot because you were quite far, I assume.
I was quite far. Yeah, I was in the nighttime missions, which get quite difficult.
Kid did not earn it. He didn't earn it.
Yeah, Galaxy Force used to kill them. That used to always be fun. And then I'd run to CNA because CNA used to have the best toys. And right in front of the CNA, not at the back where the toys usually are, right in the front, they had these green creatures that had like ninja weapons. And I was like, what the hell are these things? And I'm like, wow. And I'm poring over them. And, the plan is that my mom will always meet me at the CNA. That's what it was, because it was quite close to the Edgars. And she sees me there and she sees me looking at these things. And she's like, I take it you want one. I'm like, yes. And she's like, how much are they? They're like, 50 Rand. She's like, I'm not going to pay 50 Rand for that. No. Anyway, I didn't get it that day. I only got it like a few days later. And I had to ask my mom. I'm like, you have to get the green and orange one. The green and orange one. The green and orange one.
No way.
So anyway,
was your first one Michelangelo as well?
It was the Michelangelo was my first one, yeah. And it's just so crazy, because I remember I think school started quite shortly after that. And my buddy Justin, he had just gotten his first Ninja Turtle, which was Raphael. And I remember looking at Raphael going, that's like a really nice green. I should have gotten Raphael, but he was still in the packaging. He brought the figure in the packaging sealed to show me. And I'm like, what the hell? Yeah.
What child can resist?
Apparently Justin Miller could. But yeah. And it was crazy because that's when Turtle Mania began for me, because not a week or two after that, my buddy James Bolton, who was my buddy from preschool, he would also start getting the Ninja Turtles, and we both had Nintendos or NESs, the knockoff ones. And he got the Ninja Turtle game, the really hard side-scrolling one. Yes, dude. Yeah, anyway, it's a long thing. My first Playmates toy was Michelangelo. And I actually have a picture of it, just in case anybody has forgotten what Michelangelo looks like. So there he is.
Michelangelo? Which one is he?
He's the one with the orange headband. And, okay, they weren't soft heads either, because I think...
No, we probably didn't get the first release Turtles. Definitely not. That was, those soft heads, I think, were from 87. We were getting these things in the early 90s, so absolutely those were vaporized by then. Rob, your earliest introduction to Playmates toys?
I think it probably was the Ninja Turtles as well. I always looking at pictures of in the entire cruise of Star Trek. I wish I could have had those. But yeah, it was Turtles, and I don't think it was Michelangelo. I'm sorry, to break the trend. But I'm almost certain it was Donatello who I got first. And also, I didn't own all of them either. I think I had Donatello, Leonardo, and Michelangelo. For some reason, well, I understand why. Raphael's super popular. But I could never find a Raphael. Instead, I got the Robo Turtle, I think it was.
Oh, Metalhead.
Yes, Metalhead. He was my fourth turtle.
Nice.
And I had an April O'Neil. That was pretty cool.
Very cool.
I had Metalhead. Aren't you thinking of my one then?
No, I also have one.
Brilliant.
We both have
what
one.
A toy. What an amazing toy.
Absolutely.
I've got a cool story with him too.
The chrome central body, the light piping on top. There's so many cool features packed into these guys. Yeah. I mean, back then, I think we had Transformers that had some light piping, but this guy, it really worked well. And it was sculpted to resemble a brain at the opening on top. And that was something that was quite new for the light
So
piping,
nasty.
like the part that lets in the light, to actually still be sculpted and treated as part of the figure design. Amazing. But yeah, man,
So-
I think I tell a similar story to you, Paul, and in that I think all three of us didn't have the paid subscription service that had had GI Joe cartoon reruns, and it also was the first channel to air the Turtles cartoon. So I one year got a videotape cassette recording from that paid subscription service containing a single episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from my grandmother. And she also, at the same time, gifted me a Michelangelo action figure.
Hey.
So it was this perfect storm of like the toy plus the accompanying cartoon, and I was set, man.
To me, it feels like Michelangelo is the scoop of the Turtles.
Oh.
The weapons he comes with are like inoffensive. Like he's got little, like sticks that he flings around. I mean, that doesn't look too.
Oh, you mean
dangerous,
Donatello?
No, not Donatello. Michelangelo. I mean, Donatello comes with a long stick. I mean, that looks pretty.
Oh, with
dangerous.
his staff, with the
with
joke.
the staff.
If I'm
I think
picking up what Rob's putting
Michelangelo's-
down, he's talking about his mother's philosophy of buying her son non-violent toys.
non-violent looking figures. So I don't know. I mean, grandmothers might think that way too. Like, oh, that one has a
Jeepers.
stick. That's dangerous. I don't know. He might poke his
He's got-
eyes out.
2 short skipping ropes.
Oh, that's okay. That looks really nice. You can have fun.
No,
skipping
that one with the
around.
forks is from Satan.
Oh no.
But guys, don't you remember the weapons were all still on the tree? And I think the tree
Yes.
was behind the figure, or was it alongside the figure?
All right. Okay. Well, that blows my
Actually,
theory out of the
I've got
water.
a picture here.
Oh.
Oh,
a
I've got the
turtle-
complete tree. I bought a Leonardo recently that had its weapons unclipped. And it's not a
Whoa.
reissue. This is an original. And
Very
I'm like,
nice.
yeah.
That's so
But I
crap,
don't know
no,
where they were in the packaging. In any case, I
They
think
usually
that
are
with them
behind
on
the
the
turtles.
tree, but with them
Yeah.
still on the tree, like I don't think a parent would necessarily
Okay,
individuate
then
and
that
see.
blows my theory out of the water. I guess Michelangelo just looks the friendliest. Like his
Maybe your
colour
mom just
is-
liked
is-
purple, dude.
It could be that as well. Yeah.
I think
Interesting.
like for me, I just think as a kid, I just really liked that green and that orange. I mean, I didn't even know what a Ninja Turtle was. I was just like, this toy is really
It
rad.
looks awesome.
And then when I used to sleep over at James's house, that's how I watched Ninja Turtles, because they had Mnet. So we used to watch it
Hey.
on Saturday morning on KTV's Power Hour or whatever it was.
Lucky.
Yeah, we used to watch Ninja Turtles, but we also watched that was my first movie in cinema, was the first Turtles movie as well. So lots of cool
Aw.
stuff. There's lots of cool memories around Ninja Turtles and figures. I mean, you guys mentioned Metalhead. So Metalhead is probably the last Ninja Turtle toy I bought. Well, that was bought for me. And I don't actually even really know where. I think I was in Parkhurst. Like my mom had to go to a meeting or something on Saturday or meet somebody in Parkhurst or in Parktown even. And there was a spa and she needed to go into the spa probably to get cigarettes. And, naturally we do what we all do. We go straight to the toy section. Doesn't matter if you're in Spa or Uncle Billy's, veg market. You find the toy section. And there was Metalhead. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, who is this like cyborg, like Terminator looking turtle thing? Because I knew what the Terminator was, which is weird. And I just had to have it. And I'd never seen that toy ever again on pegs anywhere. That was like literally the only place I ever saw it was in a spa. And that was the last turtle toy I got. And he was so rad. And then like another random place that I got
He was the last turtle
Playmates
toy I got too.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to break
wow.
that trend again. I believe the last one I got was the weird crocodile guy with the shotgun.
Oh,
Leatherhead.
Leatherhead.
Yes.
I keep getting him and Leatherneck confused always.
You got him at Blue Route Mall, did you not?
I think so. Yeah.
I remember
Actually.
that Blue Route Mall had him and Weapon X from Toy Biz
good toy.
and Sauron. But this was
Yeah,
long
not so good
after those
toy.
things had stopped being sold. Like this was backstock that they just never got
Just
rid of and never
hanging
took off the
around.
shelves. They're hanging around for years and years and years. And so, yeah, I snapped up the Toy Biz figures, leaving the one Playmates figure for you, Rob. We've got some great information from Mark van Leeuwen, which I think is quite interesting, a talking point. He says that he only had Raphael and loved him, totally not in scale, but he would join my Joe Ninjas nevertheless. I still have him and all his accessories, a bit sticky though due to age. And then he goes on to say that he used Cobra Night Vulture's figures as Foot Troopers and Overlord as Shredder.
I can see that now.
They are way cooler than the original ones, I think. Now that's cool because if you played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as very hench and like kind of larger, as Michael Bay did in the films, these kind of turtle / Hulk creatures, then they work with GI Joes at the 3 3/4 inch scale. Personally, I prefer the idea that these turtles are teenagers and they're a little bit shorter. But yeah, if you did want to mix your toys genres, that is absolutely a valid way to do it.
You could do that, yeah.
You know, I never did though because I wasn't swept up in Turtle Mania as a child. I kind of eschewed it in favor of GI Joe. So Michelangelo as a gift, and I think Metalhead was also a gift. And that's where it stopped for me. I always kind of saw these colorful toys. I loved the Playmates approach, the very whimsical way they treated the properties, like very tongue-in-cheek. All the weapons and equipment had cool sounding, like hip 90s names, and little bio write-ups. Like not only did they take on the GI Joe, not only did they take on the GI Joe medium of having a file card, very detailed and full of nuggets of information on their fighting styles and their weapons and their training and their history and their character, like sort of multifaceted file card writing. But also they had a little cutout bar of just detailing the included accessories. And that's something that like really set my imagination alight. Like, why not lean into the suspension of disbelief to the point where you actually speak about these little lumps of plastic that the figure comes with great reverence and great like technical detail. But in the case of the Turtles line and the Toxic Crusaders, some zany write-ups as well, just for yucks. And I really, really, really connected with that. However, not enough to buy this instead of buying GI Joe. So
well, it was
Playmates.
Very different for me. I mean, I had already a whole bunch of 6-inch figures from Motu as well as Thundercats. Like I had a whole bunch of them. I mean, I had enough that I didn't have to play with other, with GI Joes with them. I had Shredder, I had Splinter, I had April O'Neil, and then basically a set of 4 turtles. So they could actually just play together with the other 6-inch figures that I had. And I think I did eventually get to watch the cartoon quite a bit. Either I rented it from the local...
You're hanging out at Honey's house?
Well, I probably hung out at my aunt's place quite a bit. And she had Mnet. And so I got to watch the cartoon probably a lot more than Steven did. So yeah, I appreciated the turtles for what they were. These cool young ninja dudes. And yeah, I had enough of the toys to be able to have them play together in their own world without integrating them into anything else. But I like the idea though of actually playing turtles with GI Joes. That actually sounds really fun.
So I want to touch on that.
Does anyone remember when the cartoon came on like regular general TV? SABC TV.
Oh shit, I have no idea because I've literally always watched it on Mnet. I don't recall it ever being on TV.
I'm sure
here's the reason why you perhaps have no memory of it. And this is a great little anecdote. So it came on regular TV, but by that stage, it had been simulcast into Xhosa.
Oh.
So I was watching it in vernacular, in sort of a different language to English. But it was a simulcast broadcast, meaning that if you tuned your radio in
to Radio
2000, you could listen to the original English soundtrack.
That's wild. I don't remember that.
Oh, it gets better.
I remember it for other shows. Yeah.
I desperately wanted to have some more Turtles adventures on tape for me to treasure and watch over and over again. So I set it up that I recorded on the VCR the visuals, and alongside it I set up a audio cassette to tape the English dub off the radio.
ADR. Cool.
However, I didn't realize, and I mean to this day it still blows my mind, but obviously these are mechanical devices that turn at a ever so slightly different speed. So if you want to watch it back and you sync up your VHS and your stereo and press play at the same time, they might start at more or less the same time, but they will eventually fall further and further out of sync to the point where it becomes a useless exercise. Anyway, I learned this the hard way. But imagine that. You want to watch your favorite tune, you have to break out the hi-fi, get that audio cassette, get the video cassette, sync them up at the beginning, and then eventually they fall out. I mean, ridiculous lengths we went to. I should have just I wound up just watching it in Corsa anyway.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can sort of follow what's going on. So quickly, and before we move on from the turtles, there are one or two little things that I do want to share. So speaking of weird places, and this is something about the Ninja Turtles that has always been kind of interesting for me as a toy line. I got Rat King from a barber shop. Now, I think I've shared the story before on the podcast. The barber shop used to be close to my post office where my folks live in Honeydew. And I had to go and get a haircut because, it's me with my damn long hair when I was a kid. And I see Rat King in the window. So naturally, I want this figure. And he's just really great. And I got him before Metalhead. But Rat King ended up being one of my favorite villains from the Turtles toy line. And then just in that whole line, like I had quite a few of the bad guys. So I had the 4 Turtles. And I was very fortunate to get the 4 Turtles. Because everybody wanted them, and my buddy James, I mean him and his brother, they had the giant ones, the big giant turtles. Their parents were like Turtle Before, and they sorted them out nicely. They even had these little sewer play sets that were made out of wood with like little removable sewer lids or manhole covers.
So cool.
Oh, it was so cool, man! It was really, really rad, and one of the sweetest things ever. And like, shame, bless my parents' souls. But they were never like, my parents are just not tuned into certain things, So I was invited to a birthday party, and it was like a Ninja Turtles birthday party, and it was friends of James's and I was invited to that. And obviously, so I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have Ninja Turtles, anything. My mom got me this Ninja Turtle shirt, and shame I got there. And James's mom had actually got me a Raphael outfit. So I had this cool little Raphael outfit, and I think it's because of that I started liking Raphael quite a lot as a turtle. That little headband and the little like they're basically green pajamas, with your little like white boy hands and feet that stick out of them and everything. And and James and his brother had the plastic ninja weapons, and that was like good times, man. That not so much Playmates, it's bringing back a lot of memories for me with the turtles. And guys, did any of you have Shredder?
Yes, I did. Shredder was something.
He was always pooping.
I watched the Toys That Made Us the other day, and the sculptor is actually on there saying like he didn't want them to look stiff in the packaging because that doesn't sell toys. So he gave them these very hunched over, like pre-posed look. I mean, that was in final analysis the wrong philosophy because it limits the figure completely. But look, at least on paper, his original sketches and designs of Shredder and the Foot Soldier kind of look cool. They look very dynamic, but as an action figure, it doesn't work so much.
I just know that, like, for me and many kids in growing up around me that had Shredder, the cape just disappeared because nobody wanted him in his freaking bathrobe. Okay, in some cases, some people had pulled off those wrists, his blades on his wrist and his arms. I found that the best use for this guy was on something called I think it's the vehicle's called a knucklehead. It's like looks like a spider with like it's got boxing gloves on its little hands, and the idea is that you drop it on a turtle and it captures a turtle. It's a very cool, like fun little vehicle. I permanently had him on the knucklehead because literally he could actually sit on there properly, with his fucking legs laid out like a porn star. It was great. And Foot Soldiers, like these bad boys, they had these things on their arms, and for me they always looked like flies. So I used to like twist these things out so they had like wings. So I'd make them like fly around. Foot Soldiers were great. And I just want to and this is like on the way to the next toy line we're going to talk about, but this is probably the best Turtles toy ever made, or Turtles vehicle ever made, at least in my humble opinion. I had one. It was very dangerous. I can't believe they sold this thing to kids.
Shooter.
Yes, dude. I've heard stories. I mean, I know somebody who chipped another kid's tooth, or I think his tooth was chipped by this thing. I shot I got this, and then my parents had to go to like a ball thing. It was some like awards thing.
I thought you were gonna say that you go to the police to get like a license for you to have it.
No. And while the lights were still on, I'm sitting on the stage and they're setting up everything, and I'm like, got this pizza launcher, so I want to see how far these pizzas go. Well, let me tell you, that hall was slightly bigger than a South African school hall, which, geez, I have to think in terms of space. Wow, that's about what, 20, 30 meters, 40 meters long.
Probably,
this thing
depending on the
shot a pizza pretty much almost across that length. And the pizza still had enough momentum to slide on the ground. I lost a few pizzas that night, but science, I employed science. I used science. I figured out how far it went. And, yeah.
For the listeners, it is a wheeled vehicle dressed up in green, 2 shades of green. A turtle sits on top with a kind of a bicycle-style handle, and it's a top-loading disc shooter.
Yeah,
and
like on the Avalanche.
By all accounts, it shoots extremely far, but it doesn't shoot discs. It shoots pizzas. Were the pizzas plastic with like a decal on top? Okay.
Yes, they were hard plastic, and also that thing is battery powered, so that's not a spring-loaded weapon. It's battery powered, so it spins the thing in the inside. So you press a button, and it loads the pizza, and when you let the button go, it like the pizza hits that like spinning bit, and it shoots it out. So that's why it fucking destroyed teeth.
That becomes more interesting. I was imagining on this sort of the far side of the picture that you'd have a little sort of just a sort of a finger spring loaded,
like a flick.
Yeah,
like on Avalanche.
No, battery powered.
That's wild. But it also makes no sense, because why would they not just eat the pizzas? Why are they wasting the pizza?
Well, this is the whimsy that I spoke of earlier, which is so delightful about turtles. I mean, on the one hand, they have very lethal weapons, but they'll sooner throw a pizza pie at a bad guy than cut them up with a katana, which it's amazing. And turtles presented the perfect wacky vehicle for these concepts to all find their time in the sun. But if we flip things over to the distant future, the 24th century, I believe, Playmates also got in deep with Star Trek, and to a greater or lesser degree, we are all Trekkies here on GI Joburg. If you wanted to hear the very amateurish ramblings of Star Trek fans, like, we could probably have a sister podcast to this, based entirely on that mythology.
We could go absolutely crazy.
I'm curious about who took up these toys.
Looking back at them now, so I found like they literally made dozens and dozens and dozens of Star Trek figures. The Star Trek line is prolific. And the cool thing also you'll notice with Playmates is that depending on the line and the sensibilities of the shows that they're based on, they do articulation and the accessories appropriate to those shows and the sensibilities of the fans.
Albeit in colors that are not appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, all the Starfleet equipment is always like in bright orange or teal or blue. Like, come on, guys.
So this is a line that I wish I had seen more of growing up. I saw lots of the figures, but I didn't collect. Basically, I have one. And it's probably the
Riker grabbing his dick.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is probably that figure can do the cool like chair mount as well, I reckon.
Oh, you mean
compliments of the V crotch. You gotta kick your leg up.
You finally have the Riker maneuver, I guess.
Maneuver, no, but it's called the Riker maneuver or something,
But like, it's complete cruise. They made them all in the same scale. You can literally own the entire cruise. But what did I own? You, Borg.
Borg.
Hugh Borg. I just watched that episode. It's called I, Borg.
Yes.
Yeah, they find a juvenile Borg survivor on a crash site and take him onto the Enterprise and kind of rehabilitate him. Anyway, this is a wonderfully sculpted figure and comes with well-colored accessories.
Thankfully. But like, he was literally the only one I own. And I'm very sad that I was never able to buy more, because this is a line that I would have loved to get into. But I don't think I saw them. Did you? I don't remember.
I saw them
seeing
everywhere,
that
dude. They were
much.
everywhere in
CNA.
Joburg.
CNA stocked them a
Dion's.
lot.
Gosh,
Dion's
man,
had them by the truckload.
So, Rob, for
I
you,
almost
it was the
bought
fact
one.
that-
Almost.
It was just the fact that you didn't ever see them that you didn't buy them. Because I always walked past and thought to myself, yeah, those crotches really ain't great. And there's not much I can do with figures that have that immediate limitation on their ability to sit properly.
This
And
is
also,
my
they're just too big. So I'm once again going to stay true
yeah.
to the
Once again, it
GI
doesn't
Joe.
help. But like,
Mm.
no, if I had seen these, this would probably be my greatest like regret as like a toy collector, is that I wasn't able to get these because like I would have absolutely died to own entire crews. The
Well,
toys,
I've got
you can
some
kind of
good
sit
news
there,
for you, Rob.
look
If
at
you
them.
are looking for these on the secondary market, they on card will still cost pretty much the same as they always did,
That's
adjusted for
absolutely wild.
inflation. But like I'm seeing carded figures now at the local vintage shop. I mean the doctor from from Voyager.
Shit.
I know he's
Oh,
a
from
fan.
where, the doctor, yeah.
The Doctor, the holographic Doctor. I
Yes.
know he's a fan favorite and certainly a favorite of yours, but yeah, $35 on
That's
card,
absolutely insane.
crazy.
Jeez. So
Yeah, this was a line that I never saw, but I always wished that I could have gotten into. Like just in my mind, it would be so cool to own, entire
was
crews of these guys. Because like generally the likeness isn't absolutely crazy good, but it's not, but it's good enough that you do recognize who that person is. Like that is
better
cute.
than Jurassic Park.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's cute, but like it works for what it is, and they're consistent. I think in the way that they characterize the characters from the TV shows.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one line I wish I got into. Was never able to. Oh, she always looks good. Oh, and
Yeah, she does always
interesting
look good.
interesting that she's also the only one that doesn't have articulation in the knees.
Yeah, of course, because they want that sexy girl pose.
Contraposer.
So for me, I never picked up one of these ever. I picked them off the shelf to look at them because I was always mildly curious about them because some of them had like really interesting stuff happening in the packaging. Like I think at one stage there's a line of these that comes with like sort of plastic things or discs or something that you put into a tricorder or something like that. I can't remember the exact details, but I just remember them being well finished off, and I remember them having the communicator as a stand at some point. And there was a lot of cool stuff happening with these. But here's the thing, guys. As when I was like Ninja Turtle age, I loved Ninja Turtles and I loved Star Trek because Star Trek was on, I think it was on, what is it, Friday nights? Was it Fridays, Saturdays, one of the two. I think keep thinking it's Fridays.
Saturday 6 p.m. slot, and I only remember the time because, my goodness, Rob and I
before the news.
we absolutely were settled into watching it in my parents' room because there was always sport going on in the lounge. So we were watching it in my parents' room every night. And boy, oh boy, did I get a stern talking to anytime I spoke over the part of the Voyager intro where they passed through like the sort of belt of a planet. It's like a gas giant and it has a little asteroid belt.
Yeah.
That. If I did that, Rob would lose his he was so pissed off with me. He wanted to hear the sound of an asteroid belt. Anyway, please continue.
Anyway, so I watched TNG quite a bit, and then it sort of I fell out of favor with it because I was starting to do other things, going over to people's houses, and they didn't watch Star Trek. And then there's that whole stupid thing of Star Trek becoming nerdy, and blah blah blah. And I was very much a Star Wars kid, more so than I was a Star Trek kid, and so my allegiances were pulled towards Star Wars. So, Star Trek was automatically bad because I was around a lot of, stupid, toxic, gatekeepery, fanboy assholes. And not realizing that I was actually just, actually crushing my own nuts by not watching Star Trek. So the figures were kind of completely dead to me. And it was only later on when they started showing like Voyager and stuff on Sundays that I used to sort of catch little bits of Voyager and stuff on Sundays that I started regretting, like, missing out on these figures and missing out on Trek. And that's sort of when I got into Trek. But man, Rob, I wouldn't say I have this huge regret that you do, but looking at this crew, the TNG crew, yeah, I wouldn't mind like having like a handful of those, just because they're just such great icons, and having them in this kind of form is so much cooler in some ways than having them in this hyper realistic, NECA looking kind of scale. You know what I mean?
Because other companies did do them later. I think Diamond Select did a line of like exclusive figures, and they are good. I mean, I randomly picked up one with a sale before I worked at my comic book shop of Worf from Nemesis. It's a really good figure, but like it just doesn't feel the same as like these. Like these feel, because there is a disconnect from hyper realism. You can kind of fill in the gaps, and they look more realistic than what they actually are, I feel.
Agreed. I'm fully there with you. Also,
I was always intrigued by almost the blind box nature of their accessories, kind of being hidden behind the collector card.
Yes, that's what.
However, I always lamented the fact that the phasers had their beams perpetually on, and like very short range. Like literally, it was a lightsaber.
You might as well just punch someone.
Very stupid. Like, why did they make that decision? I suppose it was made because otherwise these accessories are way too small. All Starfleet equipment is very miniaturized and makes for quite a dainty little piece. A hyperspray, a tricorder, a phaser, which basically looks like a TV remote. So, yeah, they've made the decision to put the wand, this orange wand protruding. And even worse than that, when they just went all one color and didn't bother with paint. Yeah, a blue beam. No, thank you. Pause.
Yeah.
That's why I kept making up reasons to not buy any. But if, boys, and this is where we get into a little assignment that we had with this topic of dream items that we missed out on, that we absolutely would have snapped up from the Playmates series of toys had we seen them, had we had the pocket money to afford them, would we not have all bought the bridge playset from TNG?
Oh, for sure.
And I'd seen that.
This.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Okay, so it is the
that.
entire bridge, and it is entirely walled. But just like a film set, you can disconnect the walls and shoot through various different apertures. You can take off the view screen in the front and shoot straight down through the back. The classic bridge shot. You could also disconnect the back wall and then shoot over the shoulders of the crew at the view screen. There was a cool Romulan warbird on that view screen, sort of permanently displayed, but it had a bit of lights and sounds feature that would simulate a torpedo going into the warbird. Very cool.
Commander Tomahawk.
Dude,
the doors at the back have a mechanism that makes them slide in symphony.
Like they would in the show.
Yeah, if you just grab the slider, it would open both door sides.
It's like they took the actual set and they just miniaturized it. It's like,
I think that's what they kind of did.
It's sublime. And Rob, I don't think we would have necessarily played Star Trek, but around the same time, we were so starved of bridges. We were always building massive like space freighters and playing out sci-fi adventures. And the bridge was obviously a focal point for that action because we were Star Trek kids. To have a playset that fulfills that purpose so sublimely, because it is actually the Star Trek bridge, would have been something that saw a lot of use.
Absolutely.
And the reason I caution against using it with the actual intended figures is because those guys can't sit for shit. The great downfall of the Playmates figures, and the reason why I didn't pull the trigger on any of them, is the damn V crotch. That decision on Playmates' part to make, I suppose the Starfleet uniforms needed to be quite svelte, needed to have a very clean line. So the design decision was made early doors that all of these guys would slavishly stick with that V crotch, which horrendous. Anytime you need them to sit, it's not a good look.
Now,
sorry, Rob, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No. I was just like, I was agreeing with you. This is the ultimate thing that I would have got from Playmates if I missed out.
So I saw this thing in Toys R Us, Westgate.
You bastard! You saw it.
Son of
actually, no, not Westgate. Woodmead Toys R Us.
Was it too much
Star Wars
pocket
fans.
money?
It was bashed up, dude. Like the box was
Oh,
completely
right.
bashed up. It was. I did remember looking at it. It was cheap. It was like 250 rand or something, if I'm not mistaken. It's like super cheap.
That's
But
like
my buddy Jan has one of these, and at first when I saw it, I thought this was the same one as his. But then you mentioned the Romulan warbird being like there permanently. Now he's got another one, which is pretty much the same sculpt. And this is where memory fails me a little bit because he has a lot of Trek stuff, and he actually had a lot of those Playmates figures in card that he kept in his room, in his lounge, with his Star Wars stuff. Wonderful collection, actually. Anyway, this thing, the screen you could change. It actually had different images or something that you could change inside that screen. So I don't know if it's this one or the version 2 of this. Yeah,
so fancy.
yeah. So that was cool.
Awesome. I want to catch up with some chats because there's some good ones, boys.
Yeah.
We've got Darren Cobb weighing in saying that Casey Jones was his favorite because he loved that everything could fit into the golf bag.
Casey Jones.
Casey Jones was a fantastic figure.
That Turtles had a fan-powered skateboard that could kick
The
people.
cheapskate.
I would love to pick up a cheapskate because I think it finishes off my Michelangelo. Like, I would love to just have one in decent enough nick. It doesn't need to have the flag, but yeah, the bizarre, like, mirror reflective bit in the front. That just looks fun.
It's
Mark
cool, man.
mentions that GI Joe Canary Anne could be a perfect April O'Neil, albeit a very expensive one. I think he's referring to a Fun School redeco of Lady J, which cast her in yellow plastic. Yeah,
the red hat.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently, Darren Cobb was at a convention and got a sort of early screening of the first couple of episodes of Voyager by Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov in the original series.
So
Amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a cool piece of Star Wars trivia. I watched First Contact with a girl called Nicola Knoble. And
Knoble?
Yeah.
Knoble?
And she was and
Knoppels?
that was our first date. And that was no, man, we were in Standard 5, dude. We weren't like that. I'm sure there were kids that were doing that, but we were like chill. No, I mean we went to go watch Star Trek as a first date, and that was like that was like, you know, a movie that we both chose together. So I was like, cool, you know, this girl's a geek. So, but I mean, she was pretty. I mean, she's still pretty. She grew up pretty too. Anyway, just a bit of insight there. Yeah, just thought you guys might appreciate that, or our listeners might appreciate that. I don't know, you know. First Contact is great though. I love that movie. Personally,
maybe I need to rewatch it because, like, when I listen to critical opinion on it now, people are kind of lukewarm. I'm like, no ways. This is the ultimate Star Trek movie. It was action packed, but it was still. It had great character beats and gave everyone something to do. Yeah, I think history has been unkind on showing Picard up to be like an action hero, which is what those films were trying to do desperately.
Yeah.
But back at the time, you know, back in the day, I gobbled it up. At the time,
they're absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Line must be told. Get out. That's far. No further.
And what is her name?
Destroyed your little ship.
Viola Davis.
Oh.
No, not Viola. I mean, she was great, but I'm talking about the South African actress who played the Borg Queen.
I can never remember, but yes, no, of course.
Yes,
Annalyn Kriel. Annalyn Kriel, yeah.
She went on to do many roles.
Shall we expand our conversation to chat about other Playmates lines that we might have dabbled in?
Oh, yes.
Whoa.
Oh, yes.
Your poor.
You want me to throw in a wild card? A total wild card?
Do it.
Because I don't think our listeners are expecting to talk about this line. Drum roll, please. Of course, that picture wouldn't appear. Oh, yes, it did. Nobody's expecting us to talk about this line.
James Bond Jr.
Picture now.
Goodness
James
gracious
Bond Jr. Yeah, and that would be the one I had. Ninja James Bond Jr.
Everyone had that one because, like, the regular one got bought up.
So I also didn't like that he had shorts, man. That really weirded me out. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like the normal one. He just looked cucked for
So
me.
you are referring specifically to, was it Ninja James Bond Jr.?
Yes.
He came with 2 swords. Yeah. This would very seamlessly go with your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Oh
collection.
yeah.
Honestly.
Makes perfect
Oh yeah.
sense.
I also got
But-
this bad boy. Speaking of short, but he had a skateboard, man. So,
Gordo Lighter, presumably Felix Leiter's offspring or a family member.
I imagine that's the trick there, yeah.
He was just a radical
Grandson.
dude with a skull t-shirt, pink shorts, white high tops, and a skateboard. I mean, could you get a more radical
Fantastic.
figure?
Yeah, I mean that's so
I think
90s.
not.
That's like he's like the poster child for the 90s. And at least for 90s Australia, in my opinion. Anyway,
Oh, he does have a
and-
mullet, of course.
right. And this very cool
And-
vehicle.
There
No.
it is. This is the thing this is the coolest thing from the line. And yeah, I never had it. Steven has it.
The sub-cycle, yes.
So good. It's the only good thing
So-
to come out of this line.
The car was cool too, which I'll
Yeah,
get into. But yeah,
This is the coolest.
I enjoyed this. I found this under my pillow one evening. My mom surprised me with it.
That must have been
and-
uncomfortable. It's a
Yeah, well,
box, Paul.
Mom,
yeah.
my
pillow
pillow
is
is
so
so
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable. I don't know why.
No, I was just like, I got
Maybe
into
he's trying
bed
to sleep
and I
for
was
an
like,
hour, and he's like, "Oh God, it's uncomfortable."
Crunch.
and I put my head on the pillow as I do. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that flaps up their pillows. I just head down. I'm like, oh wow, there's something hard under here, and I pull out the figure. I'm like, oh my god! I run to my mom. I'm like, this is so
Oh
cool.
my god, I'm a mint box collector, Mom. Take this back to the store.
I didn't crush the box, dude. My head's not made out of like concrete, but it was a great toy. It was a great
Yes,
toy.
it was a yellow motorcycle that, with a few quick flips and slides, would turn into quite a convincing submarine. I mean, it encased the figure completely, which is nice. In fact, I used to use it as a cycle with it kind of still encasing the figure. I didn't like opening it out and flapping the sort of the canopy halves to the side, because that always looked weird. It would have these weird, like, kind of pseudo winglets on the side of the bike. No, I just kept the canopy closed and kept the 2 halves of the cockpit slid together.
I did the same. It was very Tron-like, very future, very cyber and stuff. Did any of you guys have this? By the way, the car.
I did not. The sports car.
It was
A
cool.
red
So
sports
cool.
car with pop-out machine guns in the front by the looks of it, spinning blades on the wheels, and a very Bondian seat ejection
Ejector seats.
system.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool, man.
it
I
was
know
cool.
I
It's
didn't
like fun.
have it, but I feel like a friend of mine had it because I know I've played with it as a kid.
It was good fun. I am very happy I had this. I can't honestly tell you what happened to it. I don't remember it being broken or anything. I just feel maybe it was given away to somebody's kid or something at some point, but I don't have it anymore. But yeah, that was a fun morning. Yeah, shame, my poor mom. I think I nagged the shit out of her for this when I was a kid. I feel a bit bad about it now in hindsight. But hey, c'est la vie, I had a cool toy. So that was a weird Playmates line. So, like, Steve, did you actually have any of the James Bond figures, or did you just have the vehicle?
I just had the vehicle. I guess I was always a vehicles guy. I felt like I could use it for superheroes. It effectively became Robin's ride. Like, we had
that makes sense.
the Batman Forever Batmobile. So Batman had a way of getting
nice.
around, but Robin did not. And so, yeah, it became Robin's bike.
Well, that's actually really fitting. I mean, here's a nice out-of-box shot as well of it. It's pretty cool.
It's
This is a
such
cool
a
toy.
cool vehicle. It's a lot of fun to play with, and it's cool that it becomes like kind of like a flying vehicle. Like we did
Yeah.
a lot of sci-fi stuff with it.
It did the classic split apart back wheel thing to become fans. So yes,
Yeah.
it had a submarine mode, but also with a bit of an imagination, a flight mode too.
Imagination.
Shall we talk about Toxic Crusaders?
Oh my goodness!
My favorite
Crusaders.
actual Playmates toy, which I got for my birthday of about, I'm going to say 1995 or 6, probably 6, was Bonehead. Love me Bonehead, because Toxic Crusaders had a number of play features built in almost, and Bonehead really leaned heavily into the glow in the dark stuff. All of his accessories are glow in the dark.
So much fun.
Kind of a bazooka, a rifle, a gas mask, which actually fits over his face nicely. And even the figure. Oh, sorry. He came with a secret sort of blind bagged accessory, which was just a knife. Still, nice touch to have blind bag accessories. So there was so much going on just on the packaging itself. And
how brutal is this toy? Sorry.
Bonehead's face
like
is
Sid
even
Vicious, man.
glow in the dark.
Yeah, because he's an irradiated kind of zombie, basically.
They even
he's a rad zombie.
give you details on the kind of irradiation that they have. And
I love that shit.
Memory serves, he is rawbonium.
Like, I've got this shot here. This one is
of Nozone.
Yeah, this is for Nozone. It's like Nostonium. Oh no, it's not Snotonium. You know, it's one of them.
Well, the delight with these things, as I say, they had multiple like play features built in. There was a lot of slime play intended, and Nozone is the perfect example because you would add slime to him and he would snot everywhere.
And it'd come out of his snot.
So I think he probably made use of slime the best way. And like you could buy cans of slime as part of the Toxic Crusaders line, or you could just go to any place that sold slime. It was a 90s trope. Slime was everywhere. I did not play with slime because I was kind of precious with slime. I felt it was like a resource that you had to kind of play with very sparingly because otherwise it would pick up lint or hair or dirt and be something that you would have to throw away. I didn't like the idea of throwing away my toys. I'd been burned times before. So slime kind of had limited use for me, but you can't deny that it was absolutely a thing. And just yesterday, it was at a kids play group and they'd bought slime from Kmart's. Very cheap stuff. I mean, you could buy dozens of cans for a couple of dollars. And it has got an appeal, guys. I don't know when the last time you handled slime was. Like, it's a magical substance. Maybe it's more magical to me as an adult for sensory play than it was as a child when I was constantly neurotic about having to throw away my precious slime. But
I love the smell of it.
The smell of it, the way it moves, the way it adheres and not adheres, the way it's not like clay. It doesn't get under your fingernails. Like you can kind of pull at it and it pulls away clean. Slime, man. I miss it.
I had the slime trap, which is like one of the only really cool mochi things I had as a kid next to Point Dread. And
yeah, brilliant.
I remember like that slime was figures, so great. Yeah.
But it would then just come straight off and not leave any kind of mark on your figures, which is brilliant. Just getting back to Bonehead and his appeal. Bonehead's appeal wasn't based in slime. It was the fact that he was a dedicated vehicle driver, and I got the Smog Cycle. In fact, I got it on the same day as I got the Smog Cycle and the James Bond Jr. sub cycle on the same day. It was bikes. Because I'd gotten Bonehead for Christmas or for my birthday, and I had enough pocket money, or birthday money actually. Yeah, it was probably birthday money to buy 2 bikes. And this thing is freaking awesome. Just a color explosion. We were playing with it the other day. Yes. Oh, that's probably what planted the seed for this episode. Because when Paul was in Cape Town, we broke out all the old Playmates and Toy Biz toys, and just enjoying them for what they were, like these very colorful, very out of step with our GI Joe collections, but fun nonetheless. Toys for toys' sake. And the Smog Cycle is kind of the Smog Cycle, and Bonehead for me represents like the top of the totem pole for the Playmates era. Just beautiful, colorful, whimsical toys with features galore, lots of character, lots of attitude. And he was the guy to beat. I mean, he was one of kind of sub bosses in my and Rob's X-Men games. Like, we would always come up against this guy. He
had
works
several
well.
figures from this line, didn't you? Didn't you also have there's like a dude in a you don't have any of the other ones.
The Radiation Ranger, the sort of the foot soldier of the Toxic Crusaders. He was cool.
Yeah,
This kind of
because I remember the
pig-looking
shield.
dude.
I think that's like the only thing that you still have, maybe.
No,
The
but,
shield.
on
You
the
have the
contrary,
figure
the only thing that I've lost were not his included orange hoses times 3. I mean, wow, that's some fine toy parts. Did they not learn from GI Joe and Big Boa and Crocmaster and Armor Cobra Commander? Like, hose accessories never stick around.
Nah,
The only thing I actually lost were he has 2 detachable mines. His blind bagged accessories with these glow in the dark mines that would attach to his backpack. So I've lost one of those, which grates me, man. They're very small and they glow in the dark, but it didn't save it from its fate of being gobbled up by the vacuum cleaner, I imagine.
Or something, yeah.
Because I loved playing with these toys down the crack of my bed, like on sort of the wall side.
Oh, of course.
Just so that it
was
was
glow in the
dark.
dark.
Glow in the dark, and it felt like a sewer, and it was really dark and dank, and all that good stuff, man.
And like another thing that's like really interesting about this toy line is that it's actually based on quite a nasty horror. I would say a horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie. Like the original,
like horror comedy.
Avenger.
Yeah, the Toxic Avenger film is actually pretty nasty, and like I never knew that existed. I only realized that existed like much later on. I think well into my middle teens. But David had like the Radiation Ranger, and he had Dr. Killermoth. To Kill him off, one of the two. Can't remember the name properly. He was fun. I've actually got both those figures at my folks' place. I just hadn't been to them. Otherwise, I would have brought them for today's episode and shot my own pictures. But my first one in this line was this bad boy, was Major Disaster. And this is the GI Joe fanboy in me because he was like a soldier. He came with an actual gun and he looked like a military dude. And he was just awesome. I mean, when I found out who he was and I saw him in the cartoon, I was like, who's this hippie? But he's great. He's really great. He's such a cool toy. But my favorite toy in this line was actually this bad boy over here, and that was No Zone. And No Zone, I love No Zone because the earlier mentioned snot feature, which I didn't discover until about a week or two after having this figure, because I didn't know you could open up the drum of radioactive material. So I was like just loving this figure for what it was. And then I managed to pop open the drum the one day just because I was like, I wonder if this actually opens. And I popped it open and there was this wonderful glow-in-the-dark slime. I think it was glow-in-the-dark slime. I can't even remember now. And I remember like you could actually take his little thing off on his head and you could filter it through his nose, which is so cool. And I was also super precious about that slime because for some reason I couldn't get a lot of slime up here in Joburg. Like the canisters I couldn't get.
It's so dry in Joburg. Yeah, it just dries the slime right out.
Yeah, no, it really does. But I mean, look at this packaging as well. I mean, look at this. I guess just nostrils that look at you.
To me, Toxic Crusaders feels like the furthest out the boat could be pushed in terms of 90s bonanza. It's just waving the flag for the neon, and it works so sublimely. I also wanted to speak about the fact that like Playmates toys of the Toxic Crusader and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles variety didn't shy away from like pre-sculpted details all over your figures, like battle damage, scars, mushrooms growing out, rats creeping all over them. Like some commentators, rightly so, are like, no, we wanted our action figures clean and we add the kind of the battle damage. To me, I say, if there's ever a toy line that could get away with these sculpted details, pre-sculpted and applied and painted onto your action figure, it was these. It was Toxic Crusaders. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love it, and I have grown to love it even more as an adult. Like with No Zone, you're going to see basically snot all over his uniform. He's got a wheel for a leg, like a squeaky trolley wheel.
I love it.
Amazing.
I love it. It's so great, and he's such an annoying character as well. Like he got a voice like this or something like that. I just remember him sounding he was terrible, but I love him. I love that design.
But Rob, you and I will probably remember Toxie's hovercraft, which had a feature which we never used because we never did the slime play thing, but it had these two drums on either side of the hovercraft that had plungers, like a tap system. If you put slime in them and plunger the tap backwards, it would pour out the faucet, not the faucet, the spout.
The little spout.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
We never-
cool.
We never did that.
We were lame. We liked
Well,
our
it would have gone on the
toys
carpet,
clean.
or alternatively, that thing had it actually had a bit of foam inside it, so it was the perfect floating toy. But I don't know if like slime going into the pool would have been a good idea either.
Yeah,
Slime
no,
was
your mom would not
problematic
have
in a
been
number of instances. For instance, Chris from Chasing 80s Toys has a memory of going wild with Motu slime and the slime pit on Grizzlor. For those of you who don't know Motu, Grizzlor actually had real practical fur. So after sliming Grizzlor, he said he was a bit more careful.
We've all been there.
Mark
saying.
bought two cans of slime recently, and he was going to use it for a photo story. I hope we get to see those photos, man.
Me too,
I
man.
wonder if it
That's gonna
involves
be great.
the GI Joe Eco Warriors, perhaps. Oh yeah.
Speak,
Mm.
Rob, go for
All
it.
right.
Man.
No, I was going to say another figure that comes from Playmates is from the Skeletal Warriors or Skeleton Warriors, which is Oracular, which Stephen has spoken about before.
Oh,
Please tell me you got a picture.
Oracular, yeah.
Oracular. I used to have pictures coming up our media box on StreamYard, but I have taken them down
Filled with it.
for space. I could probably
So,
find some.
how
I don't know.
dare you.
But it's a
Maybe.
cool. Okay, that's actually a lie. Because now, as I'm saying it, I'm like, no, I did see them. I saw them once at a Toys R Us.
Yeah.
I don't know why I got. I think I didn't get into them because X-Men were on the pegs as well, and as were Batman, and that
There's
was
some
always
really
going to
good
grab my
figures in this
attention.
line. Oracular is just one of them. But like, yeah, I mean, was this a cartoon as well? Like, I don't ever remember
Yes.
seeing Skeleton Warriors. At least I don't
was a
think I
cartoon.
did.
I just don't think we got. I don't think it aired here. I think they brought in the toys in lieu of it airing here, and then maybe
because they're just such cool looking toys. They just got so
And
much
also-
character.
and some insight. Just I don't know if you guys might find this interesting as well if you don't know this, and just some insight for our listeners. So in South Africa, and
There is.
you can't. You know, like images of skulls and monsters and stuff like that. Like this would have pushed the envelope too far in South Africa in the 90s, and it's even now, because there's a project I worked on recently, which was designed for mass consumption, and we were told to make things scary, but we were not allowed to use skulls at all, or skeletons, or anything.
Interesting.
And then on the other animation series that I'm working on as well, this is a little bit of insight. We actually had a whole episode that was around the theme of yoga. Okay. And this episode's actually taking the piss out of yoga in funny ways. And it was like denied. They were like, no, you can't have that in there. It's considered like against like religion and all that. It's too taboo for TV. And this is a local, I can't say who the distributor is or anything like that because of NDA, but yeah, that whole episode was like scrapped. We're not doing that episode. So I imagine that's why this cartoon didn't come in. But that's strange because we still had Pirates of Dark Water, for example, and we had Mighty Max, which were equally as terrifying visually. So I don't know. This country's weird, man. It's a weird broadcasting standards thing. Man, yeah, Skeleton Warriors looked cool. Another weird ass Playmates line. You guys will remember the show, but I don't know if you remember the toys.
I remember the toys. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And
I had this bad boy.
Dangerous.
It was so cool.
Yeah, I remember
When
seeing
you're in
the
trouble,
toys.
you call DW.
But like, they didn't have voice strips, did they? Because I swear I remember them having voice strips, but I don't think they did.
There is one that had. There was a Disney line that had voice strips, but it wasn't Darkwing Duck specifically. But
Rob and I can
fun
never
with this
forget the mask toys. They weren't Playmates, were they?
I don't
know. I don't think so.
But there was one voice clip on the mask action figure which sounded like profanity. Fuck off, for you Swiss cheese. Rob, you know the one. Oh,
and then there was also, and I don't know if this was a Playmates line, but the original Simpsons toys.
We would just sit in the toy hall and endlessly press that.
Oh, you
that
clowns.
Was the funniest thing. Oh, fuck off, you Swiss cheese. Okay. it was back off or your Swiss cheese. But I mean, the sound chip
Apparently.
technology of the time really
so great.
like filled in the blanks on your imagination.
You know what I hate is like we didn't have. I'm equally grateful for this as actually I don't equally lament this. I'm equally great. I'm highly grateful for this, but there are parts that make me lament the fact that we didn't have fancy phones with video recording, capabilities when we were like teenagers or younger.
Think about all the material we are putting into the world now. Imagine if we were kids and had the ability to do this. Oh, geez, Paul. I pity this generation. They're going to be swamped under the weight of their own content creation.
Yeah, their hubris will crush them. But there's this trend going around, and it's just your little thing reminded me now of this. Okay, so I have this
My
like
little
side
thing.
of me. No, I'm talking about the little thing you had with the sound chip. So there are these toys that
we
you
had
can
a little
find.
thing, did we? We in the sound
Apparently.
chip.
Together.
They've been around for a while. They're these toys that record your voice. I don't know if you've seen them. They're like little hamsters and things. And what you do is you press a little button and then you record it records what you say and it says it back to you in a chipmunk voice. So I love going when I'm in the Toys R Us and stuff like that. Sometimes when I was by myself or with like Celia or whoever, I used to love grabbing those and then just like recording. Your soul is mine. Give me your soul.
Come to daddy.
Stroke my hamster balls. All kinds of stuff like that. And this is the thing. It keeps that recorded in there, right? And it's got a sensor. So if somebody walks past, it triggers the sensor. So it's like, lick my hamster balls. Or I'll swallow your soul. That's the best thing.
Jeeps.
And now I see it's all over. Like, okay, it's on Instagram now, but I'm sure it was on TikTok like 3 months ago or a year ago. But yeah, there's like girls that go around and they do these like very orgasmic sounds with these things. And then this little like chipmunk is like singing. It's like, da, 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 I'm going to make your day great. It's like, ah. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I never recorded that shit. Anyway, it's just your little.
Did they when Harry met Sally it? Like how? Huh? Did they go somewhere private in the store to make that recording in the first place, or were they just standing in the children's aisle moaning? Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
The youth of
Young
today.
people these days.
Guys,
Hey.
I think this has been a very vibrant, very appropriate to Playmates kind of chat, but it is time to move the agenda on. We have some delightful Postbox the Pit information, or correspondence, should I say, which I would love to bring to our attention right now.
Correspondence.
Yeah, we've got a mail from Chief Stride, who is an alumni of
Chief Stride.
The Chief Stride, alumnus of Talking Joe and creator of Talking Joe, now of Armor Geekdom, and many other projects. Anyways, he and I jumped on the horn to do a Benelux catalog review along with his buddy Ben Flying Retro, and he asks the following: do you have multiple copies of some figs? I'm not talking troop builders or different versions, but more. Do you have display and then play figs? For example, if you have a fig that you're too scared to play with, will you buy another one for outdoor activities? And 2, I'd love to hear how you'd rank what your choices would be regarding your top 5 pilot-based figures. Any faction. All the best, Chief. So 2 fantastic questions. Does anyone have an immediate response to either of them?
I want to answer the first one.
Do it.
Okay, so this kind of caught me by surprise. Like it just as a collector. So you guys know I love Storm Shadow, right? And I love pretty much all of the vintage Storm Shadows. The 3 really cool ones. Not the Shadow Ninja one, as much to be fair. So I have always been very precious and very scared of playing with my 84 Storm Shadow. So I was super, super happy when they did that, those retro recard versions, whatever's, that everybody hates. But I'm so happy because that's my stunt Storm Shadow. So that's one figure I have with that. And then another one that sort of came to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it's actually ended up being like a great figure to have as Plan B, is Mindbender. I have 2 Mindbenders. And it's great because I I found that like Mindbender is kind of a character that's sort of over time, especially with GI Joburg, kind of attached itself to me. And so it's great having a plan B Mindbender for when the one that I'm always messing around with inevitably breaks or withers away or, you know, whatever, gets sticky or something. Then I've got this other one that's sort of sealed and backed up. And then through the gracious and generous nature of Joe Mauler, now known as Extensive Enterprises Joe. I have 2 carded Storm Shadows in the form of the 88 Storm Shadow and the Ninja Force Storm Shadow, which I've got carded. So they're my backup plan. So they like, one day if I have kids or I don't know, something happens to my Alpha Storm Shadows, I've got Plan B Storm Shadows there in backup. Because I don't intend to resell those one day. Those will be my backup Storm Shadows. Yeah.
So this is something that you have done, or it has happened in your collection, that you have.
It just happened.
For...
Yeah, I didn't go out of my way to get them, save for the one Storm Shadow, which is that retro card collection, because I really hate not being able to play with that Storm Shadow because I love that toy so much. But you guys know, I mean, the accessories are dainty. They're kind of fragile. You know, anything can happen. He can go yellow. It's just something I'm a little precious about it. So it's nice to have that retro one that will just eventually, because of its texture, go brown anyway, and it's fine, you know, because, you know, he's my, you know, my go-to Storm Shadow. He sits here on my desk proudly. I can play with him. He's actually looking at me right now as I'm talking about this. And then it's just organically, just over time, like sometimes you buy a lot of figures through a local, you know, seller who's like, oh, how much will you give me for these figures? And you're like, oh, I just want the Captain Grideye. And he's like, no, you have to take the whole lot. And then like, okay, well, I have an Eco Force Flint now and extra. And I've got like, Rob, I gifted you that hit and run, remember? That was an extra hit and run that just found its way to me in that like really good condition. So sometimes they just find their way to you and it's cool to pass them on if I can. But there are some that I'm like, ooh, I really like this toy. I'm just going to play it to death. So it's good that I have a second one. So those would be mine, as it were.
Figures that I've actually endeavored to get a duplicate of because I wanted to have a play version and a kind of a keep version. There are only a handful, and they're all the usual suspects. Zartan, because it took me a couple of attempts to get a Zartan with all his gear, because, yeah, he comes with fine accessories. The first Zartan I got, without realizing it, had the wrong gun. It had a Star Wars blaster, and it had 2 duplicate thigh pads. So, like, that was a bit of a bummer. I hadn't realized, because the seller had very cleverly, like, flipped the other one upside down. So it was hard to tell that it was a duplicate left or right or whatever it was. So, yeah, I needed to get a second Zartan. The second Zartan was very mint. So I decided the first Zartan is the one that I'm going to give the knee pads to, and he's going to be the one, like, crawling through the swamps. The other Zartan stays in a drawer. Similarly, the chrome on my very first Destro 1983 was so pretty. I wanted to get a second Destro so I could kind of chuck him in the lake, as it were, and scuff it up and not feel too bad about it. So yeah, I got the second one for a song, whereas the other one cost what a 1983 figure of its. Yeah, exactly. The other one didn't come with his accessories, so what? I've got the perfect accessories with the original one. And the third one, just like you, Paul, Storm Shadow presents a big problem in a lot of collectors' collections because, yeah, even handling the thing might make it go brown over age. I hadn't realized it at the time how badly these things would yellow and brown. So when I got back to my childhood, not my childhood collection, my curated adult collection, and saw how blindingly white my Storm Shadow still was, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Has this thing made a deal with the devil, or have I got a repro? I mean, I bought the Storm Shadow long before repros were a thing, so for whatever reason, it's still in immaculate condition. So I was like, I can never touch this thing again. Now knowing the value of these things and how rare it is to find them in this shape, I have to get a beta Storm Shadow, and immediately set out to find that. Found a yellowed one for $20, no accessories and no Cobra symbol on the chest. Bought that, did a bit of whitening on it. It worked for everything except the chest piece. And then last year I found, once again, going for a song, a badly beat up Storm Shadow, but the chest piece was in immaculate condition. So I pieced together a just slightly off-white beta Storm Shadow with a good Cobra symbol for cents on the dollar. So I'm very pleased with that. That was a smart move. I also have 2 Tiger Force Outbacks. Neither have a crotch, I might add, but I needed to correct the great injury to my Outback that was inflicted upon him by my friend's kids after he'd been dropped from a dizzy height onto a tile floor and cracked his toe clean off. So yeah, got that second Tiger Force Outback, and now I have 2 sort of okay condition Tiger Force Outbacks. The one is now my play version. The other one stays with his included lamp inside the Tiger Cat cabin, whereas the other one is the one that I take into the garden and use for YouTube member Playmotions, actually. As it turns out, he's a recurring character on the Playmotion series that I do, which is exclusive content for YouTube channel members. Yep. Rob, do you have any similar stories to tell?
I think generally when I buy things, I'm buying them because it's something I don't have. I think that's 99.9% of stuff that I own. The exception is the kindness of the GI Joe people who give me many scoops, and that's not because I'm trying to like keep a pristine scoop somewhere. Because he's worth a ton, thousands of dollars. Not yet. But because I just love the character so much, and everyone knows how much I love the character. I'm kindly sent many versions of Scoop. No, I don't think I'm precious with any of them. I don't know the value of all of them. I mean, I think the only one that I don't know the exact value of it, but I know it was pretty expensive when Stephen bought it for me. Was the Night Force sneak peek.
Hilariously, the most expensive figure I had bought at the time. But can I just to give everyone a reality check? It was only $60 US.
Yeah, so I'm precious with it, but I'm not overly cautious with it. I mean, I'll still take it out and play with it, but yes, he does stay in like a little plastic thing, separate. But I wouldn't buy another one, or at least like a beta version of that, so I can play with him. I still play with him. Yes, I mean he's worth more to me because it was a gift from Steven, and I'd rather play with it because I know it's from him.
That was circa 2006, 2007. It was your birthday of 2007. That's right. So February 2007.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yes, I know he's worth he's worth a lot of money, but like it doesn't stop me from wanting to enjoy him.
And he has his mic.
I still haven't lost it.
So cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think my experience is very different from you guys. Once again, I'm the guy who didn't get my Kanjo first.
Set you down a different path.
If we can, like, for 2 minutes, I just wanted to extend something here where Steve mentioned like getting figures, to replace arms or a crotch or something like that. That I have definitely done. It felt like a slightly different topic, but hearing Steve mention it, there are 1 or 2 that I've had to do that with, notably Doc and Spirit. I got a Spirit that was missing, that had a broken crotch, and no, I lied. He didn't have a broken crotch. I had a Spirit like normal, but he had very like the shades of his blue were like super off. Okay. And it wasn't like I had to go out of my way to do it, but we were in JoeCon anyway, and I found one for like $4, which had really great arms, which is what I needed. And so I bought that figure. And then I found a upper body for Doc, because what had happened is I was trying to shoot a review for Doc, and his fingers broke off. And I wasn't even being rough with it or anything. It was just their time. It was these new finger shooting action that happened, and that.
I need a doctor. Oh wait.
Yeah. Oh wait. Exactly. So I did endeavor to find a replacement upper torso for Doc, which I did at JoeCon, thankfully. So now my Doc is sort of nice now, and I'm too scared of touching Doc now because of like that happening. Because I really love that toy. He's just got so much swagger, and it's cool because that's extra spirit stuff I gave to a local collector called Skoltz, because he really loves spirit and he needed exactly those parts that I had, and so yeah, so they at least went to a good home. So yeah, I do have one or two kind of upper torsos, lower torsos, a crotch of a figure here and there. I bought a second 90s Snake Eyes because my one had a broken ankle and I couldn't live with it. So when I was in Cape Town and I saw that Snake Eyes, I was like, maybe shouldn't I, whatever. And then, yeah, eventually I pulled the trigger on it and had it, like, I bought it a little bit later and then got it as one of my first figures for this year. So, yeah, that does happen. Having your display and your backup figure seems to be kind of an important thing if you want to play with your toys, makes it a little bit more dangerous.
Chief did want to get some pilot figures out of us, and I think I'll crack that one open. In no particular order, though some partial order anyway. My favorite ace has got to be version 3, the one that comes with the Ghost Striker X16.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome figure, very accurate looking flight suit in a nice subdued like olive green. So perfect. In other words, it was the ace that we always needed instead of the awkward sort of pressure suit look. But what pushes him into the danger zone is the fact that he has a 2-piece removable helmet with a bit of rubber goods to make up the mask and hose. The hose plugs into his chest. The mask straps can stick over the helmet knobs on either side. But what that allows you to do is to have it swing away from his face to kind of recreate that classic fighter pilot shot of when they pull the air mask away from their mouth and they're like, he's on my tail, man. Anyway, that was a killer ace figure.
Remember when people doing that during COVID? Sorry.
I can't breathe, man. Put your mask back on. I've got huge love for the Strata Viper, of course.
Oh yeah.
He's my favorite Cobra pilot uniform, like the dark charcoal gray, the black, the red. It's a symphony of colors that works so well. Wild Weasel's flight suit is perhaps a little too monotone for me, whereas the Strata Vipers just look good. They are sublime and surprisingly androgynous. Like, if you wanted to play this, any kind of army builder, Sky Raven pilot or Strata Viper pilot as Raven from classic Sunberg episode, that name
Just
always escapes me. Yeah, you could use the standard Strata Viper. Easy. Looks good. A Cobra pilot that sometimes gets overlooked is in fact the fact that... Oh, not that. The HISS driver is actually qualified to fly the Fang helicopter. If you don't believe me, just look at his file card. All the way at the bottom, it says, qualified experts, HISS vehicle, Fang copter, knowledge of all NATO and GI Joe weapons. These guys are a little bit overqualified, if you ask me. But
nice cheat.
Since the Fang, thank you, Rob, you know me. Since the Fang never came with an included pilots, and since the red of the HISS driver contrasts so nicely with the black of the helicopter, they have since become rocketed to the front of the class as my de facto Fang copter pilots. And if they weren't so damn expensive to get with the chest symbol intact, I'd have more of them. Fortunately, without the chest symbol, they're not too bad if you want to use a water slide decal. What's next? Oh, I like using Major Storm as the pilot of the Locust because his helmet is so good. It's a rubberized helmet that has its microphone attached. It's not a separate piece. I'm looking at you, lift ticket, goddammit. So you'll never lose it. But also, it's got that side, that single eye sort of monocle side. So it kind of reminds me of longbow Apache pilots with the targeting, I don't know, monocle. So basically, he looks great in the cockpit. He looks like he should be a pilot. He comes with a vehicle that includes a helicopter. So that says to me, yes, Major Storm is a helicopter pilot as well as a armor guy. So yes, and I mean the complementary colors. I love the figure in spite of the fact that he is a Franken-Joe, but he's got a killer head sculpt, great parts, awesome pilot figure. And then I think number one has got to be my childhood Countdown, who the file card specifies that he was an F-16 pilot before joining fighter pilot, before joining the GI Joe space program. So I always used him as such. He was the go-to figure to take up the pilot seat of my Sky Raven back in the day, which was my very first GI Joe jet, and what an amazing jet it was. It needed a pilot, and Countdown was the man. Of course, getting the figure in there with his bulbous helmet presented a little bit of a problem, and that might be a contributing factor to why the drop-down cockpit feature on my Sky Raven is broken. But it didn't stop me as a child from using this guy for all his worth as that pilot. Anyway, does anyone else have any entries? Top 5 pilot figures?
I do, but in typical Paul style, I flubbed the mission a little. I misread it. I misread it as favorite vehicle driver, not 5 favorite vehicle, or not 5 favorite pilots, 5 favorite drivers.
Are any of them pilots?
But no. But hear me out here now. In typical Paul style, do you know me to only ever choose one of anything? So thankfully, my own nature has saved me from this. So in no particular order, and not necessarily all pilots, and I'm so thankful I have 5. I'm going to start with Serpentor, who is kind of a pilot. We see him flying a Night Raven in the movie. We also, he commands an air chariot, which requires some kind of piloting ability. And he's a vehicle driver, so that one at least ticks all the boxes, which is awesome.
Jeez. You thought I was cheating, hey Rob? Ball.
And the next one is Thrasher, which I actually went and did I went through the effort of getting a picture of him. Very nice picture from this one collector. I don't know, it's a Spanish collector. Should have gotten his name. It's a cool photo. But I got Thrasher.
We just rip your pictures and don't credit you. That's what we do.
I'm so sorry. I was hoping it would be in the name of the file. I'm so sorry, but this is a great picture. Kudos to the person who took a photo of it. But Thrasher is also great because he's also kind of a slashy, because he is a vehicle driver of the Thunder Machine. But let's be honest, the Thunder Machine has a rocket, and the Thunder Machine is basically a jet without any wings. So he's also technically a pilot. The next one, the third one, is Zanzibar. I love Zanzibar. And I'm so glad I didn't have to choose between Zanzibar or Thrasher for this. Oh, that's actually quite a relief. Zanzibar, we can all agree, is an actual pilot. And the Strato Viper. You can't go wrong with the Strato Viper. He's just incredible. They are just incredible because, as Steve said, it's not you don't have a gender assigned to that body sculpt. It's pretty, androgynous, I suppose. Androgynous? Not androgynous, but you know what I mean. Can't think of the word right now. And Steven just said it earlier because I love my marshmallow brain.
Yeah.
It
doesn't. You can't immediately tell the sex from the sculpt. There's nothing overt. And the fact that they almost have a kind of a swimsuit, the red creates this taper, which looks swimsuit-like, does feminize it a bit.
It does. It does make them look very special. And then my last one is not a pilot per se.
I'll help you spin this ball, don't worry.
But it is a vehicle driver. But hey, a different coat of paint, and your Uncle Fanny's your aunt. This could be a pilot. It's a Cobra Lamprey. Cobra Lampreys just look badass. I really love
them. It does fly above the water.
Exactly. It's a hydrofoil. It's semi-aircraft.
I should have been a lawyer. Anyway, there it goes.
Speaking of lawyer, Rob, do you have any... I was about to flip the script onto correspondence we got from an attorney at law, but if you've got some pilot figures?
I have pilot figures. So my top 5 pilot figures in no particular order. Wild Weasel, I absolutely love this guy, mainly because of that one issue with Ace, where they have that kind of like shakedown. Absolutely cool figure. I love that he has the little pads on his thighs. He feels like a proper pilot to me, and we never
like a proper pilot.
Yeah,
making
like
sure
an actual pilot. Like, you
just
know,
making
he's a
sure I
real
heard you
pilot.
correctly.
Would you say that the Wild Weasel sculpt represents a unique character only, or can you use him as an army builder for all the general Cobra pilots?
I don't know. I feel like he is unique because like
Okay.
it doesn't look like a scarf, but I feel like that blue thing is a scarf, and I don't think all of the pilots would wear scarves like that. It feels like a ruffle, you know, underneath his shirt there.
The
Yeah,
problem being, like, there are an abundance of Wild Weasel action figures out there, and not necessarily enough pilots for
Rattlers.
all the
There should be
Rattlers.
another name for them then, because I mean, I think he is Wild Weasel, but
Yeah, he's a
the
Red
Cobra
Baron, dude.
pilots,
Herb
yeah, but the
Trimpe
Cobra
definitely
pilots,
used that design for general pilots in GI Joe Special Missions.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the number, but there was an issue where GI Joe air raid or kind of take pictures of Cobra Island, and then it turns into a massive dogfight over the island. And in the Cobra kind of rec room, you see guys who are clearly wearing Wild Weasel's flight suit, but they're just general. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I
Pilot
would accept
Vipers.
it as kind of like different color, like maybe if it was gray and black instead. But I think he's
Green.
uniquely Wild Weasel. If he's in the
Sure.
red outfit and he has like the coiffed kind of like scarf looking thing around his neck, I do think of Wild Weasel as a unique character.
He's just so Red Baron and so Shah Aznable.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I would. Yeah, I think I would accept him as not himself if you had a figure that was in different colors. So if you had like custom figures of him,
Scourge.
yeah.
Darren makes a good point in the chats. It's kind of like Scourge and the Sweeps. Those of you guys who don't know Transformers, it is the same toy, but you'd have the leader figure and the army builders.
Yeah, no,
I
exactly.
don't, how that actually worked in
I mean, he doesn't
reality
have
is
to
anybody's
look
guess.
completely different. I mean, you know,
Suppose the Seekers are kind of the same as well then.
yeah.
Anyway, carrying on.
Yeah, but they all
Different
had the
guys.
same bearding as Scourge. So that thing
Oh,
that sets
yes,
Scourge
yeah.
apart, like all of them have it. Like if there was a way of alternating the figures, but yeah, Transformers of the time and even Transformers of the modern era don't do head swaps. So, well, not really.
Those
So
bastards.
they might be
Looking at you,
third-party
Skywolf.
guys.
And thank you to 3D Joes for the fantastic shots that I borrowed.
Rob
And
does
so,
credit his sources.
well, 4 of the 5 pictures are from 3D Joes. One of them is mine.
Yay.
I'll tell you when I'll credit myself. So Wild Weasel is definitely a top pilot for me. Flint,
Yes.
absolutely fantastic. You cannot
was
go wrong.
hoping
with
you
Well
would.
played. Well played,
Um,
Rob.
It's on his
It's on the file
card.
card.
It
Jinx.
totally counts. I've always loved Flint, and it's cool that he's a pilot, and it rounds him out. You know, he's on the ground, but he can also be in the air if he needs to be, and I think that's cool. It's proper, and you know, you see him in the cartoon, maybe jumping an airplane, it makes sense. Anyone else, I'm like, nah, that makes no sense. Even though they're all apparently pilots. So Flint, obviously Vapor. I can't do a list of favorite pilots and not put Vapor in there.
Everybody's favorite S&M fiend.
He's just, yeah, I think he's awesome. Absolutely love Vapor.
Does this
Vapor
tickle
is
you?
the included pilot of the Hurricane VTOL. Anyone scratching their heads?
If you never realized who he was, he's very cool.
Love his
I mean,
scaly
even if you
underpants.
don't get, if you don't even want the VTOL, you can just get the figure. He's really cool. Number 4, my own picture countdown. Once again, Steven's already mentioned. It is on his file card. I assumed that all astronauts. I mean, maybe it's not true, but I always assumed all astronauts were originally pilots of some sort or some degree.
In the early space programs, they were.
Yeah,
They
so
had to
I
be,
always
yeah.
assumed that, but I did make sure. I double checked. I was like, okay, is he a pilot? And then the 5th one is kind of a cheat, but he comes with his flight gear, and it's General Hawk.
Hey.
Yep.
Fantastic pilot. He kind of sing in the air.
Comes back to the line from Iron Man where they're discussing between Tony Stark and Rhodey about taking the pilot out of the plane, and then doesn't Stark say something like, "Well, what about we take the plane away from the pilot?" or something like that? I'm cocking it up. Yeah, basically, yeah. Hawk is absolutely a pilot because he's flying a bloody jetpack.
Absolutely.
He is the plane.
And It never made
great.
sense to me. The guy called General Hawk was not a pilot. He has to be a pilot. It's probably an
Somewhere in
unwritten rule
his
somewhere that he
misspent
is
youth.
an actual pilot. But finally, they got it right with this version of the character from the 90s. 91?
Very good. Hey,
Hell
well done, Rob.
yeah.
Yeah. I
You're
just
getting better at
stumbled
this, Rob.
upon a few pictures that I didn't bring up, and I'd love to.
Oh my goodness.
Because
Please
there's
show
actually
them to us.
there's canonical information from the comic book
Wow.
showing the his driver flying the Fang helicopters. In fact,
there we
I think it's the
go.
Fang's first appearance. The His tank drivers aren't driving the His tanks. That's being done by like Cobra command staff. They're actually behind the wheel or behind the stick, behind the cyclic of the Fang.
There you go.
Also, I'm surprised none of you guys have. Pardon me. I'm just sorry. It's
No
just,
one
I'm so-
mentioned Ace as their favorite pilot. Yeah, because he's just Ace.
But
But
Or
listen,
Wild
but-
Bill.
Can we just mention the most? Stephen did mention Ace.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, he did, yes. Ace with the weird helmet. Sorry, I forgot about that.
But the greatest
What?
pilot,
It was a
Weird
long
helmet.
time ago.
and I mean,
Mhm.
this is why he's not on my list because he's the greatest pilot in GI. In fact, throughout the entire GI Joe comic,
Wow.
Cobra or GI Joe. Yeah, there's no pilot actually better than this guy. That's actually why I didn't pick him because I figured you guys all have him on your list, and it's just too much low-hanging
No, but
fruit.
he's so easily forgotten.
He's so easily forgotten. No, he's not. He's ultimate. Shipwreck, guys. I don't know why. I feel like I mean I dedicated a whole 30th anniversary Sky Striker to Shipwreck livery. So whale stickle at all.
Well,
So-
technically, then we could all have chosen any
Jesus,
character if we were
that-
going by cartoon rules. Like, literally everyone is a pilot. My favorite pilot is Stalker.
Junkyard.
I would like to make a special mention though for pilot figures, and I feel like this toy never gets spoken about because we mostly speak about vintage stuff. But the Pilot Scarlet from the modern era line is absolute gold, and
you like her?
I love that figure, man. It's great. I'm so glad Jim Godfrey actually helped it find its way to me. He had a whole bunch of extra stuff, and he was just like, would you be keen? I'm like, hell yeah, I'd be keen. Because that was kind of a chase figure for me at one point. I was trying to get my hands on one, and they were like ridiculous prices. And yeah, when I got it in my hand, I was like, wow, this is a cool toy, and it just definitely needs a lot more sort of respect and coverage. I'm just putting that out there. I also want to just help the eBay prices increase on it. So.
Boys, we have a little bit more correspondence I'd like to get through, if I may.
Yeah, please. Sorry.
From Sam Smith, attorney at law. We have the following. Hey guys, I saw the imp used in your latest Dire Story episode, which was great by the way. I resisted the impulse for a few days, but then bought myself an imp from an internet vendor. I couldn't help it. I had the imp as a kid. I was confused how to use it, but oh well. Python Vipers look really good with the imp pick attached. Actually, was the imp a cancelled Python Patrol vehicle? It fits right too well with the Python vehicle for this to be an accident. It might not be a cancelled Python item, but here's the story. But there's a story in there somewhere. Would you say so, gents? Does it
Yeah, I
look
feel
like
so.
it should be a Python Patrol vehicle?
I think they go together like, chocolate
Milk and
peanut
nuts.
butter.
Yeah. Look, the yellow of the imp picks up on the yellows used by the Python Patrol figures. The red is a similar shade. The only thing counting against it is the fact that the imp is a 1988 vehicle release, and Python Patrol was a 1989 figure and vehicle bonanza. So that's a little bit out of step.
Yeah.
Yes, no, it doesn't have that sort of cross hatching, but absolutely they look good together. I couldn't think of a better
it should
operator.
go together. Yeah, it could be.
It doesn't have an included driver, so
that's true. But I mean, that could be the impetus for why they did the Python Patrol. Like
the
they were inspired by the.
impetus.
Oh god.
I thought that's where you were going.
I didn't do that on purpose. Because
totally-
the coloring, and they're inspired. Like what's a cool coloring? Oh, we had the imp last year. It had this colors. But also, I mean, I'm sure that they don't develop these lines 1 year at a time, do they? They must have had, some idea of what was coming up. They just maybe they accidentally didn't put it as part of it.
Look, that burgundy is part of the classic Cobra colors anyway, since the Moray. But yeah, with Cobra armor, it kind of was getting all over the place at that stage. We had gone away from the Cobra Black and into the blue, and then into the everybody forgets Ghost Rider apparently, says Mark van Leeuwen.
Well, that's what my joke was. Just I thought Paul was going to bring him up. I was like, oh yeah, that guy that we always forget about.
Dude, I'm not going to joke.
Really
that was actually on my
pilot.
top. That was actually on my top 5 list, and I don't know how. I mean, the Lamprey. I love the Lamprey, but I don't know why I forgot about Ghost Rider. He's in front of me right now as we're talking. He is in front of me.
Is he though? I don't know.
He is. He's really here in front of me. I can show you guys. I can switch on. The camera.
Oh, heavens
I can
spare
show
us.
you him.
We believe you, Paul. We believe you. It's not
Okay.
necessary.
I absolutely believe you.
But does he have his scarf?
Ooh.
He does.
He does. Bravo.
Paul, why are you showing us
Yeah.
your hand? What's going on?
Hey, there he is with these freaking dead eyes. But yeah, there he is with his little scarf.
Why are you out of focus? Like there's, I don't know what
Autofocus,
your
man.
camera is focusing on.
It's a good figure, but it's a little bit 1950s with a very very sophisticated aircraft. Like there are weird things going on with the GI Joe pilots. Let's just make that very clear. Some they go for absolutely classic designs and it works, like Dogfight going with the Mud Fighter.
Down.
He really should have a helmet. And then some are totally out of step with their aircraft. And I'd say Ghost Rider probably falls into that camp. Anyway, Sam Smith, bless him, he's got another little question for us with an included picture, and we love that. I know, right? Why he has the time to email us? I mean, like, he's famous. He's on tour, isn't he? Anyway,
He is.
have you ever thought? This is Sam Smith, attorney at law. Come on, Paul, get your facts straight. Have you ever thought what would happen if Major Blood was promoted to a higher rank within Cobra and or usurped the Cobra Commander himself? Gents, I have the answer. Behold, Commander Blood. Pick attached. Recipe: 1993 Head and Arms. 1993 Blood Head and Arms. 1993 Cobra Commander torso for the waist, for the torso, the waist, and the legs. And as I said before, he has included a picture. And for anyone watching the YouTube version, and for my two boys in attendance, that is what a Commander Blood would look like.
More to the other side, Paul. More. Put it in front of your face. We can't see it because of the picture. There you go.
Paul has his 1993 Blood, but let me just, as I say, enter into consideration Sam's custom. Very handsome, because the
Really
1993
cool.
Cobra Commander was dressed up in black, so that meshes
That
well
works
with the
so
black
well.
arms and black helmet of the 1993 Major Blood.
If
Very nice.
Commander Blood was more ambitious.
I like the fact that he's got a Sergeant Savage tank in the background. That's a tasty
yeah.
vehicle that seems to work all too well with this character setup. Nice one, Sam.
Cool.
Thanks for writing in. If anyone would like to reach the show, you can do so yourself by writing into our Gmail account. It is arealsouthafricanhero@gmail.com. Yeah, and it's also included in the episode description below. So in case you didn't jot that down in time, don't worry. Just scroll down and you can message us there. Anyone else got anything to say on the way out? We've gone on for a good long number of minutes, hours,
I'm going to
days.
say this is a good episode.
This was a good episode. I really enjoyed talking Playmates.
Cobra,
and-
Coils.
And I'm very
Cobra.
like I gotta say with the whole Playmates thing, I was so glad when Stephen brought it up as a topic idea, because I've been collecting, or when I say been collecting, I've collected my Super 7 turtles because I've put a cap on it, and I've got everything that I want from there. And I am kind of keen on getting No Zone when they do him as a Super 7 release, just because I really love those toys and I love those designs, and I hope they get them right. Not like Rat King for Super 7. I would have jumped on that with glee, but they did the version from the video game, which is not a bad design. It's just compared to the original, it sucks. It doesn't have like a dead cat on its belt and rats all over it and freaking centipedes on it, and it doesn't look like a mess. It looks too cool. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also, just a reminder to people not to buy Falcon, the classified Falcon.
Hashtag boycott Falcon. Is that what you're trying to start?
Paul has had a lot to say about this figure. He can't even. We were on a completely different podcast. Or
just came
live
out.
stream.
Oh, tell us about that, Rob.
So we were recently on. So Stu from the
Universal Collector.
Stu.
Universal.
The Universal Collector.
Over on YouTube.
Over on YouTube. There we go. Thank you, Stephen. Did a 24-hour charity stream for a kids charity, and we were one of many groups of fantastic guests that he had on. And that's also where Stephen originally revealed Elliot's love for turtles, and Paul revealed his hatred for
disdain for Falcon.
And
apologies, Rob. There is no the. It is Universal Toy Collector.
Just,
when you're Universal, you don't need the definite article.
You don't need no the. You ain't no the in there. So he went on for 24 hours. By the end, he was still looking good though, which is
I agree. Yeah, I said as much I think I did in one of the chats, but I messaged Stu later and I was like, "Are you shattered, mate?" He was like, "Yeah, it's a bit rough." But I mean, as you say, he held it together amazingly for 24 hours. It was so nice to be able to dip in and out of the stream and just like hear friends talking about toys. Amazing.
Yeah, there was so many good guests on there, and also a nice variety. Because I mean, his channel doesn't focus, on one toy set. He just focuses on toy collecting in general.
Yeah.
Which just allows so many different people to come on and just talk about what they love about toys, and their own experiences, or just just chatting the breeze. Chatting the breeze. Shooting the breeze. That one.
Yeah,
why can't people do 24-hour streams all the time?
They should just do that all the time.
just do it full time. Yeah. I'm going to address one more thing from the chats. Darren Cobb wants to know about Sequest DSV, why we didn't address the toy line.
Simple we reason. Agreed beforehand. We weren't going to talk about DSTV at all. DSV at all. We were like, no.
We'll just completely skip it.
Lol. No, we never got them, man. For some reason, they were not imported into South Africa.
And we got the pilot.
A gatekeeper called Prima Toys, who basically dictated what came in and what did not. And Sequest perhaps didn't rate highly enough that the TV show wasn't getting enough following. I guess I assume that's the reason. But sorry, we cannot talk about love for Lieutenant Commander Hitchcock, whoever the hell that was.
I like the talking
very
dolphin.
few episodes. Oh, really?
And to close up the Stu's fundraising, so he was raising funds for Give Kids the World Village, and his original goal for the 24-hour stream was $1,500, and by the end he had actually managed to raise, thanks to the fantastic people watching, $2,500.
Wow, nice one.
Absolutely
awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you for having us.
Support.
Thank you for this initiative. What a great guy.
It was actually a privilege to be on there. Thank you very much, Stu.
And it was a good chat as well. Actually, it's nice to be in a setting where we're not running the show. So there's a fourth chair, but we're kind of the guests, but we wind up taking over the agenda anyway, or at least I do. But yeah, it was great fun. We'll happily do it in a drop of a hat for you to anytime, buddy. In line with giving thanks, I'd also like to thank obviously our patrons, folks who week to week, month to month, year to year, shell out some dollars to GI Joburg. Much appreciated, guys. We love what we do. We would do it regardless, but the fact that we can grind out a little bit of money to help with the running of things, thanks to you, is amazing. So yeah, we are eternally grateful to you all. Grateful to the Berg Force for joining us on the live chats, and the YouTube members for joining me week to week as I play with my action figures, rather amateurishly.
In front of the camera. And also just a happy birthday to Brian Lauer and to...
That's HCC788 by any...
88 for you guys, if you don't know.
Company.
And oh my word, I just literally looked at his name now. And to Casey Wheeler, happy birthday, dudes.
Hey.
We hope you had a rad one. Happy birthday, so to speak.
Casey of Podcasts from the Pit.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Happy birthday, buddy.
So show him some love. Go and check out their shows. If you're a GI Joe fan and you haven't checked out their shows, come now, make it happen. Go and check it out.
Do it. Come on.
Yes. Also, don't forget #boycott Classified Falcon. And with that, I think we're done for today.
We are, stick a fork in us. Thanks, everybody, and see you in 2 short weeks' time. We didn't get around to talking about our classic cartoons, so expect to see a bumper episode next time. Cartoons and comic books all blended together. Delicious.
That is going to be an animated chat.
Bye, Falcon.
It is.